Welcome back. In our last segment, we took you back through the whole tangled history of Memorial Field in Mount Vernon and also dug into some of the current problems at the stadium. Rich investigated even further with Journal News investigative reporters Mark Lungariello and Jonathan Bandler.
Gentlemen, thank you. A lot to unpack here. And for those of us going back a ways, it was a big deal playing a game at Memorial Field. I mean, it was the biggest stadium, certainly at the time. I think even now, it almost had 4,000 seats. But once you got on the field and you saw just how dangerous, frankly, the field was, let alone everything surrounding it, you learned that, from afar, it was far different than up close. And then, fast forward now 30-something years later, and it's in an unbearable state of disrepair. I want to read the first line of the first part of your series because I think it really speaks to it. Ernie Davis's love for the game of tennis may have cost taxpayers millions of dollars. City's former mayor squandered more than $4 million that was set aside for the long-sought redevelopment of Memorial Field, ignoring signed agreements and contracts. And throughout this, Mark, it's amazing how people went off half-cocked, political divisions and rivalries that impacted it, and seemingly so little oversight or at least acknowledgement of prior agreements in place. But it really started because one mayor really loved tennis.
That's right. It was a $12.7 million project co-funded by the city of Mount Vernon and Westchester County to renovate it. And renovations had, started and stopped. Discussions had started and stopped over several decades even. So it finally looked like something was getting done. It was going to be a new stadium, an 8-lane run track, and turf fields were part of that plan as well. But Ernie Davis came in and decided that he didn't like that plan. He wanted to spare the old stadium. And he also wanted to build these tennis courts, which has kind of limited the space for any future run track there. So it was his decision. He decided that an architect by trade, that he had his own plan and his own vision that he wanted to fulfill.
But that's one thing if people have different visions, but the problem is money was committed to the original project. We've talked before, it seems I'm learning a lot about Avanti construction here. Once again, people were promised funds. All of a sudden plans change, but people have contracts. Talk about that. Yes,
there's, there was supposed to be a contract to demolish the stadium. They were paid almost the full amount that it was originally bid for, as I recall. But the question was, well, what did they do? They may have been given other tasks as Ernie Davis unilaterally changes that plan. There's also just the county had $6 million more committed to the project that it never released. They never signed off on the changes that Ernie Davis made, so they wanted a whole accounting done before they released any money. And honestly, that's still the stalemate to this day. They want to see exactly where the money was spent, what's been done, and what needs to be done before they release any more funds.
There are many open-ended questions, as you said, and we're going to get into even some of, from a health standpoint as well, with all the dumping that went on there. But there was wasted money in this project, and Mount Vernon, as people know, not a city that's, has money hand over fist. A lot of money was wasted already to this point, and we don't have the Memorial Field that was promised.
Right. I think the issue with Avanti, if the fact that they got paid almost their whole contract, if there was a field there now, and if it was just a matter of, well, let's maintain the grandstand and let's build some tennis courts also, but at least have a functioning thing, people wouldn't have an issue. But at the same time, all the money got, not the $6 million, but the $3.4 million from the county, and whatever else was spent, and the bond money that, they've spent most of the bond money, they don't have anything to show for it.
And we mentioned James Brown had a concert there, others, but also one of the locations, the most iconic commercials around with Mean Joe Green and the kid and the Coke. That took place at Memorial Field as well. But then we get to where we are now, and as if there needed to be more twists and turns between tennis or track, dumping of tons of waste and on a handshake deal, and we still don't know what's in there. And even, the mayor acknowledged at the time, yeah, I cut quarters, sure, everybody did it. Do you know what's in there? Yeah, kind of. Speak to that.
Well, yeah, there's 12,000 cubic yards of fill. That's the estimate. And there is no paper trail at all as to who brought it in there, where it came from. And there are accusations that, there's construction and demolition debris, that maybe that top layer, which is clean soil, covers a lot more stuff underneath, and certainly the testing that the city has done has shown that there's debris like discarded tiles and that type of thing. But yes, Ernie Davis tells us that this was a barter deal with a contractor who he says he doesn't remember the contractor's name, but in exchange to build a stone wall along Sanford Boulevard in exchange for bringing in this this dirt. So you know, he acknowledges that there may have been stuff that happened there that he's not aware of, but certainly even that is bypassing the protocols that you need to go through a bidding process that the Board of Estimate and Contract of the city has to approve any project like that, and none of that was done here.
So then we bring it to present day, and Mayor Thomas, just like all his predecessors, has his own vision for what Memorial Field should be, and I guess there's different, depending on somebody's stomach for a price tag here, there's different visions from rehabbing the field here to turning it into a location where you'll also have commercial properties and then even a robotic garage even. I guess my questions are, what do we think is going to happen, and where are they getting all this money?
All right, well, he's talking about if it gets to the point where they're talking about $120 million for, you know, a 15 to 20,000, $25,000 seat stadium, retractable roof. You're talking about $120 million, and the only solid numbers that they've provided at this point is they expect maybe the city will borrow $30 million toward that, and eventually get some kind of public-private, you know, with the state's help and private investment to cover the rest. $30 million for Mount Vernon is a huge amount of money. He was very upfront last year when he said, you know, here are 3 options, and then we're going to talk about a 4th, which is going to be a shoot for the stars option. Among the 3, those still range from $14 to $30 million.
And again, it's a 3-part series. The 3rd part is now out as of this Friday. And again, you can check it all out online. And you don't have to be a Mount Vernon resident to find it fascinating. I speak for myself. Mark Lungariello and also Jonathan Bandler, thank you both guys. I appreciate it.
Thanks.
We'll take a quick break. When we come back, your Hudson Valley headline.